Welcome back. With just 26 days until Election Day, former President Donald Trump isn't letting up on his personal attacks on Vice President Harris, doubling down on some of his harshest rhetoric. As our own Dasha Burns reported in real time yesterday at his rally in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Mr. Trump lashed out against Harris, signaling he has no interest in changing his tone, even if it turns off female voters.
She doesn't even know where the hell she is. They ask her a question, she's like a vacuum. What? No, I don't want to be nice, you know. Somebody said, you should be nicer. Women won't like it. I said, I don't care.
Today, it's the Democrats focusing on battleground Pennsylvania as former President Obama hits the campaign trail for Vice President Harris with a rally in Pittsburgh tonight. It's the first but not the last event Obama plans to headline as the Harris campaign hopes to harness Obama's popularity in the remaining days of the campaign. Joining me now is Kelly O'Donnell in Pittsburgh, where President Obama will be speaking later this evening. And Shaq Brewster is in Detroit, where President Trump spoke earlier today at the Economic Club. Kelly, let me start with you. What are you anticipating we will hear from former President Obama? And what's the strategy to use him in these closing weeks?
Well, Kristen, for you and me, this is a little bit of a flashback of our days covering President Obama. It's been a dozen years since he was the candidate, and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz believe he remains a super surrogate, one of the most consequential voices in the Democratic Party, and someone who, in a battleground state like here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, can draw them out and make the argument for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in ways that they believe can reach voters who may be disengaged, voters who need a little push, voters who need to hear the story in another way. Barack Obama can talk about his long friendship with Kamala Harris. Also, of course, Joe Biden served as his vice president. He chose Harris to be his vice president, and there is a thread of continuity there that he will try to use to argue that the country is going to be better off under the stewardship of Kamala Harris if she is elected in November. It is a tight race, as we know, and using some of former presidents' sort of star quality is something that they want to use on the Democratic side, with both President Obama and later President Bill Clinton going off in a couple of key battlegrounds as well. Also, for Barack Obama, he has been offering advice. He has been offering support in fundraising and doing a lot of the sort of new ways of connecting with voters with direct to different kinds of audiences. But this is an old school rally where one of the best orators in the Democratic Party will try to make the case that Donald Trump would not be the choice for Pennsylvania, knowing how close this is, and in particular trying to reach some of the voters where Barack Obama has a strong affinity, namely black men. That would be one area where he can help, and connecting with older voters as well. Kristen?
Yeah, Kelly, if you look at the polls, in order to win, she's got to get up some of those numbers with male voters. Let me ask you, Kelly, she's agreed to do a town hall later this month, and some Democrats say, look, she's got to sharpen some of the answers that she's been giving on her economic proposals, on how she would differ from a Biden administration. What's the reaction been inside the campaign? Any plans to do that?
Well, one of the challenges as vice president, she is trying to demonstrate loyalty to Joe Biden for a lot of reasons. Their work together, the way he exited the race, certainly on matters of foreign policy. She and her campaign believe that it's important to have only one voice speaking for the country at a time. But on matters of domestic policy and ideas going forward, that is where she could have a little bit more daylight. And we've only seen very minimal examples of that so far. And that may be one of the ways where Kamala Harris is challenged to try to show how she would do some things differently in what she describes as a new way forward. It's a lot of the ideas that Joe Biden supports, and she's got to try to distinguish that in order to win over some of the undecided voters. Kristen?
It's a challenging line to walk, Kelly O'Donnell. There's no doubt about that. Thank you for your great reporting, as always. Shaq, let me turn to you now. Former President Trump spoke today at the Detroit Economic Club. Of course, it comes as we got new economic numbers showing that inflation ticked up slightly higher than expected. What has the response been from the former president?
Well, I'm sure it doesn't surprise you that he definitely mentioned that exact point on stage, talking about the latest inflation report, really putting the blame on Vice President Harris. He also went after the Federal Reserve, saying that the cut in interest rates that we saw earlier this month was political. We also heard him go after in the past, jobs numbers, saying that they were fake. But, earlier in this segment, you talked a little bit about how he said yesterday and really promised to dial up the rhetoric against Vice President Harris, saying that he's not listening essentially to advisors, saying that he should tone it down a little bit. And that was something that he continued here in front of the Detroit Economic Club. I want you to hear how he mixed that personal attack with his message on the economy.
Under Biden and Harris, because of inflation, the economy has been a total disaster. But Kamala says that she can't think of one thing that she would do differently. She said that 2 days ago in a very unfortunate interview for her. I don't think she has any idea what's happening, okay? I think she's dumber than hell. And we've had enough of that for 4 years. We're not going to have it any longer because we're not going to be a country if we have it.
You hear that strong language there, and this came over a course of about a 2-hour speech, nearly 2-hour-long speech here to members of the Economic Club. We did hear some substance and some new announcements from the former president. You heard him mention, for example, tariffs, the fact that he wants to impose tariffs, especially on companies that ship jobs overseas. He talked about tax policy and different changes to the tax law that he wants to have. But we also heard him talk about insurance rates, and I should say, talking about the fact that if you pay for interest on your auto loans, making that deductible, similar to how homeowners do and how they're able to do that with mortgages. So we heard a mix of comments there from Donald Trump, going personal, but also some new policy proposals in his extensive speech.
Great breakdown of that event. Shaq, Brewster, thank you so much. And of course, Kelly O'Donnell beforehand.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.